Today on the podcast, we have Michael Linback from Go Partnering. Welcome to the podcast, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Where I always like to get started is understanding people's journey to Bitcoin. So how did you come to know this thing?
Well, as an engineer, I graduated a very long time ago. The whole part of Bitcoin was actually from a technology side in the beginning. So like in 2012, 13, around the number, that's when I sort of got very interested about the technology actually and what it was potentially be able to do. Now the blockchain and everything that it comes down to, but at the end of the day, well, I did discover that this might be a very nice asset in terms of value appreciation. Now that really turned things around. So before my realization about the value, well, that's when I gambled a little bit more and lost those bitcoins and so forth, like most of us. So that's kind of part of my journey, but eventually ventured further and became fairly serious in terms of seeing Bitcoin as a potential vehicle for appreciation in value.
So this is incredible to me because I was late to the game. In 2012, in terms of the network and how things were, and kind of, I guess your experience in financial products and seeing this appreciation potential, I'm trying to understand, I guess in a bit more detail from the technical pieces that attracted you to it. Was there anything very specific that led you to believe this had this potential?
Well, I mean, to be absolutely honest, the current financial system that we have in the world, at least what most people are using, I wouldn't say is really built for human beings. That's kind of the expression I use. Now, what does it mean? Well, it means that we have a unlimited amount of, well, coins, whatever we call it, if you call it US dollars or euros or yen, but we have an unlimited amount and we have a small amount of people that are making decisions about the amount, which means the rest of us is just tagging along. And it took me some time to really understand this, but of course it wasn't, quite obvious right away. No, because I was into the technology. Oh, you can transfer this and do this, the tech part of it, basically. So it was more in the beginning, that part, like, oh, you can transfer, you can do this and this and this. I wasn't really considering the sort of value compared to what we are mostly talking about today, like dollar value. Because in the early days, as you probably know, Bitcoin was just a tech thing. It was like a gimmick. It's like it wasn't really considered any sort of value, so to speak. Yeah, it went up and down in value, but it wasn't really considered as something sort of valuable. But anyway, that is actually the starting of my journey. I realized that this is a way of transferring value, or as let's say exchange value, without having to use third parties, without having to use intermediaries, without having a lot of strange regulations on this side or that side or whatever that might be around the globe, and instead more of a money that is, or a money, well, I call it money, that is created by the people for the people, whoever that was who actually created the technology behind Bitcoin, which is still actually not 100% defined yet. Even though there's a name, Satoshi Nakamoto, still isn't really who is it. Is it a team or who is it? No one really knows, I think. But that way of transferring value without the old system sort of being part of it, that was really very interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, I think for me something similar. I mean, I look at the central banks, and if people really understood, these 8 people kind of controlling the strings for the US dollar or other currencies, being Canadian, seeing the central bank have a mandate and do certain things, it's literally the most anti-human policies you could possibly imagine, right? And we just accept this. Most people are just kind of accepting this as these people are the experts and know what is best for everybody in terms of the optimal money supply. And if you scratch on the corners at all there, you see how just completely absurd that is. So congratulations for picking that up early. So that leaves, a 15-year journey to today, and, maybe connect the dots between, how things progressed for you over that time to where you are today at GoPartner.
Sure, sure. I'll try to do that. It's a long time to connect, but let's do it. Now, as I said before, started technology-wise, more curious about the technology, didn't really care about value or whatever. Down the road it went, gambled away a couple of Bitcoins, and wasn't really super concerned, even though I was starting to understand around, 16, 17, I was like, this is maybe something really valuable. This might be something to really be precious about. And in 2000, what was it, 19? Yeah, no, actually 16. In 16, I went into a school, well, an online school in that case, that was teaching trading investing. And that was quite interesting. I did have some experience, but I thought, hey, if I combine my experience with this experience, well, that's going to be a really nice house to build. So that's kind of what happened. And that is, I think, really the point in time where I started looking at this as a serious asset, so to speak, like something that can actually be used for not just payment, but also investment and trading and so forth and so forth. And of course, spending time being taught these type of investment strategies and how you can think about it, and being part of sort of a community where this thing that we speak about, central banks, currency, data, is like day-to-day talk. That's normal. It's not something that is very strange. And once you start reading about it and sort of digging into what is the financial system, how does it really work? And since I also became actually part of this company later and started working as a coaching trader and head of research, well, that kind of gave me a lot of incentive to really dig deep and really understand eventually what the global finance system is, how it is built, how it is working, what Bitcoin is, what it is not, and how that actually is working, and potentially how we can leverage this going forward. Now, that led me down the road, and I want to highlight one thing that I'm still sort of holding quite dear to my heart, I would say, because I still think it is true today, even though it's getting a little bit confusing or blurry, you might say. We talk about democracy in the world. We can discuss back and forth about that, how far that takes us right now in the moment in time. However, when it comes to, for example, deciding how many Bitcoins is going to be available on the blockchain, as far as I can tell, that is still actually one of the most true democracies that exists in the world. If you want me to break it down, I can break it down on top of the 51%.
I'm happy to go into that, but I thought you were going a different way about kind of how printed money can kind of subvert democracy. And that's my angle. Like in Canada, they just printed money, gave it to the media, and then, got people to think whatever they wanted them to think, and still do.
I mean, honestly, the world's currency, well, what used to be the world's currency, US dollar, I mean, that was backed by gold. Probably a lot of us know that. So up to 1971, there was a fixed exchange rate. You can go with $1 to the bank and you got a piece of gold. Kind of good. And that was a little bit sort of better in one way. However, what happened after that was, just as you mentioned, all right, we're not going to tie it to anything anymore. So what is the actual value? And this you can actually turn. I'm going to go a little bit higher in thinking level. Maybe you can actually turn this around, and then you can think about, well, what is the dollar value of a Bitcoin? Is the Bitcoin more valuable, or is the dollar sinking?
Yeah, well, that's the framing, right? And it's the same with houses or whatever, right? Are they increasing in value, or is the value of the currency decreasing?
Mm.
And I think we know the answer, right? But we measure inflation based on a basket of consumer goods where there's a lot of competition to make those goods. And we don't measure financial asset inflation and the fact that stocks now trade at 50 times earnings, bonds have negative yield, and houses don't cash flow. And so that's kind of missed in the data and allows this scam to continue.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the inflation, I actually say this might be a little bit radical when I say it, but when someone tells me something about trusting the banks and the system and so forth, and I do have a fairly good relationship with them, I usually say to them, well, inflation doesn't exist.
Why
And then
not?
they look at me and it's like, what? What do you mean? Well, I say inflation is man-made. There is not. I mean, let's say you buy a liter of milk in the supermarket. Has the capacity of producing milk gone down the last year, or has it gone up, or is it there's a shortage, or it's like a massive demand, or what is happening? Well, at the end of the day, you will find many things that actually makes this thesis or this statement that I said true, because nothing has really happened with the product or the production or the delivery or demand, but the number, whatever value you have on the price tag, has still gone up. So is it actually inflation, or is it someone that wants it to be that way?
Well, I don't have all the answers, but yeah, I mean, I think when I initially started reading some of Jeff Booth's stuff, I was just blown away, right? Because it makes it really obvious that as technology is improving, prices should be going down. And I think we would obviously see that if there wasn't a huge amount of money printing. So through this journey, you now are at Go Partnering. What is the mission of Go Partnering?
So on this podcast, I'm actually going to mention the deeper vision on Go Partnering. I mean, I can first say what we do today. Well, we build lead engines, for example. We help companies set up a great lead engine they can run themselves after 90 days so that it can acquire new clients, which is what most companies need today. Naturally, we're using technology.
We should talk after.
There's technology and AI, but it's also a lot of experience in terms of how to actually get this running and get it done well. Because there's a difference between using AI, which people say a lot, and actually understanding how you can utilize that technology. And that really is still a human's prerogative. You cannot replace a human with an AI unless that AI is actually very well trained on you and your business. And that's what we do. Now, the bigger mission, or actually, I would say, why did I start this business at all? Well, first of all, I didn't really find my place in this world, to be very honest. I didn't really felt that I fit in, so to speak, in most cases. So when you don't fit in, what do you do? Well, you either go your way or you create something on your own. And that's what I'm doing. Now, why am I into technology, and why do I think that something like AI technology or whatever we are using is going to help us a lot? Well, I like technology. I think it's cool that we can do things with technology that was, not really possible before, or it's different, same as Bitcoin. However, the bigger mission and the bigger vision is, can we help people, businesses, do something in another way so it saves time, frustration, brain power, and eventually money? So we
Yeah.
can get back life.
And so, I mean, this is incredibly timely. So we've just launched our 2.0 version and are going through and using some AI strategies, frankly, to acquire customers. But very interested. I tend to agree with you because some of the things you can do with AI can lead to you're automating emails back and forth to people you've
Mhm.
already contacted in real life, and different things that I don't know, aren't integrated into kind of a coherent strategy, a number of different pieces. So I mean, Where do you find that you're able to really help clients the most?
Well, as I mentioned, one of our primary offers right now is that's what I call the lead engine. And why I call it engine is simply because, well, what can I say? I mean, when you buy a car today, they're mostly so trimmed and good in the engines you can jump in and drive. That's kind of all set and done, and you can basically step in and press the pedal and go. Great, fantastic. Now, when it comes to, let's say, acquiring new leads or getting prospects in front of you with meetings and so forth, even if that's recruitment or if it's customers, that's a little bit of a different engine. It's a little bit different car, so to speak. And it does require trimming and tweaking and testing and kind of iterations. And because here's the thing, there's a lot of lead engines, a lot of software, a lot of platforms, a lot of tools out there today that provides the functionality of potentially getting new prospects into your business. A lot of them. Not a problem to find that. Millions. However, I don't think there's any tool today, as far as I know, where you can go to this tool and sit down and say, hey, here's my business, make it good for me. Mm-mm-mm. Doesn't work. So you actually have to either yourself, if you prefer to do it yourself, understand your business, your offer, your market, your target audience, and so forth and so forth. Create your one breath brief and really get that honed in, so you can actually do that outreach to the right lead at the right time to find the right prospects and get them to your company. Now, that you can do yourself, and a lot of people do that successfully also. However, we realize that a lot of companies, they don't have the time, the energy, or even the interest to do it, to be honest, because
Wow.
it's not that easy. Because even if you are the best tool in the world or the best AI, you can say today, maybe, you still need to make sure that this machine really understands your business, your offer, your target audience, how to speak to them, how to, all these type of things is very human judgment. AI can do a lot with the right instructions, with the right training, but that is why we build the engine for companies.
So, I mean, what are the challenges you run into apart from maybe some pushback from people who are trying to do this themselves? But I guess I'm curious across a number of uh, kind of lines. One is, in terms of regulatory issues, I'm curious, how those intersect with what you do, and other challenges you might run into.
Absolutely, and it's a good question because yes, there are definitely intersections, as you call them, and if they are legal or platform-wise or channel-wise or whatever they might be, there's a lot of complications, and especially when it comes to lead generation, because that is sort of the front line. You're very much in the front line trying to, gather and fight the storm that most people are doing. So yes, it does change a lot, and there's a lot of challenges. But this is also why, I mean, yeah, I can say this. I'm not going to say everything clearly because it's still in the works in the background. But it takes a lot more time to kind of get put together what we are working on in the background, and that is to find different ways of actually taking care of what we call the prospects. Because at the end of the day, it's not that difficult to get a list of people, or get emails or whatever that might be. That is not very difficult, actually. The most difficult part, usually, and I'm talking B2B here, now not B2C, so business to business. The most difficult part is actually to build that trust. And to build that trust, that is a little bit of a different engine. I mean, what are we talking about now is the lead engine. That is the front line, getting people through the door and a little bit further and nurturing and so forth. But in the background, what we are sort of architecting is more of the next step. All right, so you already have a list, or you have contacts, or you buy contacts, or whatever you do, and now you want to see if any of these 10,000 people, 20,000 people, whatever, maybe actually is a good fit for your business. Now you can spend time on doing that and calling and mailing and whatever you want to do. But in the background, we are considering how we potentially can build this process and system that we provide to businesses. So whenever they have a list, or they might even have a list in their CRM, well, let's use that to reach out again and build that trust over time, slowly but surely, until they are qualified, warm prospects in front of you again. And I think that is a little bit more better. You talked about complications and legal implications. Yes, the frontline lead generation has a lot of challenges. The nurturing part, not as many challenges. Not it's still difficult, but it's not changing every day. And that's something I personally prefer, because I prefer a little bit sustainability and longevity. But it's also a bit more tricky or challenging to actually build that into a really, really good engine. So that is something that has happened.
So obviously AI, Bitcoin, big, big words these days, and you're kind of at the intersection of both.
Mm.
My favorite word today. What do you see as next in the space? Where are things going?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I mean, there's so many speculations. I call them speculations because, who knows, really. But if I'm going to be really honest, I think Bitcoin is going to be taken over by the governments and the financial
Oh,
system.
come on.
Not maybe in the most obvious way that people think. Oh, they're going to buy all bitcoins, or they're going to shut down the blockchain. No, I don't think so. That is not going to happen. However, there, there are many roads. I can only speculate, but let's take one speculation and see where it leads us. Let's
I know.
say,
I think I already know where you're going, but let's go.
I mean, we're going to release Bitcoin 2.0, which is much faster and much cheaper, and you can have it on the phone, and you can do this and this and XYZ, and everybody's like, yeah, very good, and they get it, and they don't understand that this is not Bitcoin. This is built on Bitcoin, which means you are not in decentralized control anymore.
I thought that's what stablecoins were, but
Well, stablecoins is, there's already used fully on, so that's not really an issue for the people who want to control the system. But I think they cannot control the Bitcoin blockchain. So if people who truly understand the technology, like what is a Bitcoin, kind of never leaves the blockchain, this is what it is, and a Satoshi, and so forth and so forth. If you really understand the nitty-gritty of it, I think it's likely not going to happen that anyone takes over the blockchain, so to speak. I mean, it's not impossible. There's always a chance, but I don't think it's very likely. But to construe the system and create something that looks better, or they get most people to use it, likely to happen.
it's yeah. It's a bit painful to hear you say that. It like hurts my soul a bit. But I'll say this: there's a lot of I lost my train of thought, but I don't see it going that way. I do see obviously a lot of institutionalization and a lot of traditional financial players who are suddenly becoming interested in the space, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure the new system looks like the old system, and I think we'll go through a time, and I think Satoshi laid it out very clearly that the primary benefits of this technology are lost if trusted third parties are required. And everything I've seen built in the space involves a lot of trusted third parties. And I do think we get past that. I think when we first got computers, we were using them as typewriters, and now we're using AI type of tools. And I do think there's an evolution that will happen. I'm optimistic. But I mean, you've seen a lot of stuff in the space over.
Yeah.
I'll let you touch on that too. But I'm curious, after seeing so much being built in the space, do you have advice for builders on what they can do now?
And I guess it depends on the perspective of the builder. What are they looking to do or to achieve?
Well, say they wanted to change the world and drive the adoption of Bitcoin as money, for example.
Well, I mean, as a CMO engineer and so forth, there are a couple of ways to change anything, basically. But technology doesn't change anything. There's one part of it, that is the technology. But the other part is market and the perception of the majority, and that's the combination I have: technology with psychology. So what I see is that you can build something amazing technology-wise. I mean, there's been many projects out there in space, and I mean some of them are still here, uh, Monero and so forth and so forth. Many interesting projects that leverage this technology to build something that is more, let's call it, user-friendly, anonymized, doesn't disclose too much and so forth, and truly decentralized. But you also need the other part. Let's call it psychology for simple sake. The other part is the psychology. How do you actually get people to use it? You know, how do you get enough volume to be used? Because that is really what a currency is. If a currency isn't used enough, or at least held like Bitcoin mostly hold them, it doesn't have a place or value.
No, I get this, Michael, and I for me this is a very real thing. I mean, we talk about payments and Bitcoin being used as payments and being used as money, but where I am, I couldn't pay for anything with Bitcoin, and
No.
maybe in 10 years I can, but as soon as I'm outside of El Salvador, I don't see anywhere I can pay with Bitcoin, in the real world, and so that's a challenge. What I run into with my business is often, conversations with maxis who are just hodling and, have some kind of ethical issue with leverage or credit. But, if the money is just sitting out of circulation and not used, in financial products for payments, for other things, I don't really see the point either.
Now, I mean, good and bad, but we live in a world with human beings, whether we talk about Bitcoin or AI, and human beings have emotions and needs and wants and expectations and so forth. And uh, you have to have some way. I mean, depending on what you're planning to do, but you said change the world. Well, that means you have to have a majority that actually is kind of at least utilizing what you're doing. Otherwise, you won't change much, unfortunately.
Mhm.
That's just how it is. I mean, there's a reason why Go Partnering only works with B2B businesses.
And why?
Because the reason is that when you sell, or when you create something, build something for business that are selling to other businesses, then it's a little bit more balanced. It's not the flashiest that wins all the time. It is not the latest hype all the time. It's more like, okay, you built something good. Is it working? Okay, number one. Can you prove it? Okay, number two. Thank you. Do you have any use case? Number three. Thank you. And when you have that, which we have now, I mean, well, one of the latest clients doubled his revenue in 1 year, using us for 12 years, 12 months now, and running really well. Got about 30% increase in qualified leads coming in. And when you have something like this, then it's no longer about the flashy Instagram or this type of marketing that works with, I'm not going to say it's a majority, but a large part of the population. And for me, that fits my heart better. I prefer to not lie. I don't want to blow dust in someone's face. I want to actually be as truthful as I can. And in B2B, that is a little bit more allowed and more, good to do.
Interesting. Well, I really appreciate the time today, Michael. You've provided a lot of insight and a lot of helpful information. And, I think your business is obviously going to do well. So I'm going to take that conversation offline, sorry. Where can I send people who are looking for this type of help to find you?
Well, I mean, Go Partnering is the website and the name, and .com is the domain. So we've been around for a while.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Well, again, thanks again, Michael, and appreciate the time, and we will do this again soon.
Sure. Take care.